Hey guys, welcome back to Chris and Retro. Tonight's video is about stamina. This conversation's come up a lot lately, and I probably mentioned it several thousand times on the show because it just does seem to come up frequently. And we our ability to achieve our goals a lot of times comes to places of exhaustion, and so I want to talk a little bit about that tonight. I've also given a shout out. We had on that show a few weeks ago, Antoine Evans, who goes by the name Preacher. He's got a new YouTube channel called Preacher's Corner. So please check that out. It's brand new. He's got 15 subscribers. It's 24 hours old. So jump on over there. I think he's going to have some great content. He's got good connections. He's a good speaker, and he's got a passion for what he's trying to accomplish here in the addiction and mental health community. So don't let the name fool you. He's a real guy. I think something you're going to really enjoy. So check that out, regardless of religious affiliation, belief in God, any of that stuff. I think you're going to find content there that's going to be super useful for you in your journey. I look at my life and the moments where things were the most struggle, and it was always in an area where I was most exhausted. And I think a lot of times it starts with the mental exhaustion, but physical exhaustion is soon to follow. I was trying to consider this subject here and really just take a look at some of the angles in which this manifests itself. I think one of the things it does is after you've gone through an awful lot and you start to get some traction, you get really excited and you put a lot of energy into the new days and the new hope and the things that you're trying to accomplish. Then lo and behold, you put a lot of work into it and you burn yourself out. And when you burn yourself out, that's where exhaustion comes in again there as well. And that's where one of the two areas of prevention is critically important. The first area is before you even get in. The second one is making sure you don't go back when it comes to addiction. I think one of the challenges we have with mental health all along is the stamina piece, period. Either anxiety, depression, all those things really led us down a road that caused whatever our substance of choice was to be the go-to move. I read something the other day, and I believe I shared it on TikTok, that talks about the fact that, we have the very thing that's destroying with us. One of the biggest challenges we have is knowing how to cope when that's been our coping mechanism. Now, from an outsider looking in on another person's life, we can say, well, just get rid of that. That's destroying you. But when you're in it, especially if you've been in it for a while, it's scary in a lot of levels because we understand that that is the thing that's destroying us, but it's also been our only source of coping because a lot of times we burned everything else around us. So when we're going through these seasons and we're trying to get to a place of recovery, pace matters for stamina. So if you're first coming back on and getting your feet back underneath you and you're getting all this stuff in that quote unquote pink cloud where you're really excited, you put a ton of energy into it, and all of a sudden you find yourself getting exhausted because you just can't keep up because the substantial, formidable work has not been done. Your stamina is going to be suffering and you're going to have to really consider what you do there. So I would encourage you to pace it. A lot of the guys that have been around for a while, they will discourage heavy involvement in things like YouTube channels, podcasts, speaking engagements, all that stuff, relationships, all of it. And the reason they do is because early on, you got too much you really should be dealing with to actually do it correctly. Correctly, I use loosely. There's no right or wrong, but to do it more effectively, to accomplish the goals of sobriety more substantially and with a longer term capability. There is obviously no correct way in all of this. So I look at our current situation, and I would say that for Sam and I, some of the things that we struggle, and I apologize if it's annoying to you that I talk a lot about this, but I really believe that I can deliver a message right in the fire. I'm not talking down to you or at you. I'm speaking with you about a current situation, and I'm not blowing Sam's story up either, because I mean, if she was here, I know for sure she'd be right alongside me with this conversation, and she has. I mean, we've been talking an awful lot about it. Right here on the wall here, I have a bunch of her letters that she's been writing me, and talking about how Satan's played his hand and we know what he's up to. Well, I think he's crafty and can probably come up with a lot of other things too, and I respect my opponent for sure. But the point is that we're both really committed to making sure we share our story. One of the things we've been struggling with is we're in the middle of all this. There are days, like, the volume of stuff that's coming at us is so overwhelming that it's really hard to have stamina and hope. It's very difficult because it just seems like every single day there's one more negative thing that's really making the collective story seem generally just hopeless. And so how do we get through these stages with any stamina whatsoever, and where do we find hope? Well, let's go back to the premise to the show. And one thing I've learned as I look retrospectively through my life, I know I've been here before. I know I've been in the situation before. I felt hopeless. I didn't know what was going on. I had a pile of stuff on my plate. I've been here before. This is known territory for you, for me. And if you're in a situation where this is your first time through it, I've been through it. Trust me, you probably do it again. So I'm not, don't get too excited if you get out of it. But what I know, and the premise of the show is this: my high risk living puts me in very difficult situations eventually. But what I do know, closer than it appears, is it's on the logo here. What I do know is hope is closer than it appears too. I've learned that over and over again because it absolutely is true. If I follow the things that I know to be true, and I know the work that needs to be done. And so a few of those things I'm going to share with you. One of those that's really important is understanding your mindset. Where's your head at? We talked about that last night, actually, with Jeff Mugango, and we had Matt Prater on from the Arizona Cardinals. We talked about the idea of mindset being such an important area. If you Google mindset right now, you're going to find everything from consultants to websites to books to blah, blah, blah. Everybody's got something on mindset. And what's interesting is in 2019 is when this thing really started to elevate, when we're talking about a pandemic. People just feeling hopeless. And so they understood that their mindset both is negative and positive. If your mindset's negative, you're going to think negative ways and you're not going to have solutions. If you're positive and you've got your mindset set on a goal, then you're going to get through things. So what does this have to do with stamina? Well, I think we realize what the goals are. We don't get wrapped up in the emotions of the situation. We stick to the goals. So for Sam and I, as we're going through a very troubling time and some very scary things facing us, honestly, more so on Sam's side because of it's personally things that she can't figure out how to get through. And I can't figure out how to fix it. I want to fix it and help her. I want to help her. And I want her to be okay. And for her, she wants to be okay. And we have a system around us right now that doesn't necessarily seem to want that for her or for us. They allegedly want it for our children. I question the process of helping kids, candidly. I think that there's some good people in the process, but I think the system is really having a hard time with its connectivity and its communication. And with that, a lot of context is lost. And all you have to do is run into one or two bad characters in the system and you're screwed. That's a sidebar. It's not about the people all the way through the system, but the system itself allows itself to victimize families based on the lowest common denominator of character that can make a decision in that process, if that makes sense to you. But it doesn't. There's a lot of well-meaning people in there, and I know I met 3 of them last week, 2 with our county and 1 with a nonprofit, and they're all 3 very good people, and I think have noble intent, and like legitimate noble intent in terms of the plans that they're making. However, they're in a system that no matter how good they are, at some point could walk to a bad character that is going to blow up everything. And so for Sam and I, we face that stuff and we're struggling with it. And again, it goes back to, well, you didn't make choices, you wouldn't be here. Well, no kidding. But, we are here and we're trying to do the right thing and move forward. So how do we have our stamina there? Well, it comes back to mindset. And one of the ways we can get our mindset correct is our daily effort related to that. So if you're running out of stamina, what I would ask you to do is just take the whole slate of everything that's on your plate and boil it down to just today. That rigor around that alone is going to be a way that you can really start to fortify yourself, because now you're not taking on the entire collective of all the things that you've got to face. You're just dealing with the things that you need to do today so you can move the next gate to move the needle just a little bit more forward. So one of the ways we do that is by journaling. I've talked about this a million times on here, but I can't emphasize it enough. Journaling is massively important for us to have the right mindset to ensure that we can get through the toughest times. The second thing, it really is about our tenacious, rigorous commitment to the goals that we've set before us, that we are not flighty with those goals. They don't change because we've contemplated them and recognized for ourselves what's the best option for us. And I'm not suggesting that that's a light effort, because a lot of people call it finding themselves or whatever else, but I don't think we need to find the whole collective. I don't need to find the full collective of who Christopher Pridmore was going to be when I got in recovery. What I needed to find was what was a reasonable expectation I could have for myself that was going to set a trajectory that could help me achieve some longer term aspirational goals that I have. So what I mean by that is, for today, I need to do everything within my control today to ensure that I have a fighting chance for what I might want to do tomorrow. The converse to that is anything that I do that's close to my addiction, I blow that whole thing up. So journaling I found to be a tremendously effective tool to help me do the second part, which is tenaciously go after my goals. Now there's a third part that's a little bit more difficult, and this is acceptance. I've talked about acceptance a lot in this show, but acceptance is incredibly important. And in fact, it's the foundation of all it is that I can do to deal with the realities of what's going on in my world right now. There are certain things, certain realities that I have to reasonably accept are true. I have to accept the fact that Sam and I are currently not residing together. That I have to accept. I cannot change that. And the longer that I sit around and just in despair and trouble, I'll tell you, there's small things about having her in my life that just sucks not having her here. I mean, it is just nice to give her a kiss. I like it. You know, that's a rejuvenating moment for me during a day. It's nice to hold her hand. It's nice to go for a walk. It's nice to say, "Hey, Sam, did you hear this? Did you see that? Check out this song. What do you think about this show? Sam, does this sentence sound right?" That's what she is to me. I'm working on my book I've been working on for 3 years. I'm right now working on a substantial portion of that book. And I'm telling you right now, it'd be so much better to have my former journalism student in the house because she thinks about things differently than I do. But I have to accept the fact that we're not currently there. So what do I do with that? That acceptance. So, oh, poor me. No, actually, I just say, okay, well, that piece of information I can't do anything with. But what I can do is make sure that I structure everything around that so that I'm holding the fort down and supporting her while she's getting better and while we're managing through all the other things. That's something I get to do. I'm not obligated to, but I accept that role in my life and it's something I choose to do. And I appreciate being able to. I like being the one person that I know in the whole world, come hell or high water, is going to be loyal to her. And that's just something I'm thankful for. So then the last thing, the last portion of this in terms of stamina is be authentic. I tell you what, I've seen so many people fall apart trying to entirely reinvent themselves right out of the gate. You know, I was at a meeting last night and had a great conversation with a dear friend of mine. I've known her for a lot of years, and you know she's going through a tough time right now. And we were having the conversation about God and spirituality. And she's going through one of those seasons. She's had a lot of loss in her life, and I think it's probably natural for us to question a higher power and His validity when we've felt so much loss and pain, and as she certainly has. She's lost her father when she was 5. She lost the father of her child when her child was 5. She lost her cousin, who was a super close friend of hers, probably her closest ally in life, and then lost her firstborn child in vitro and gave birth to that child stillborn. On top of it, she's an addict and is trying to build her life back. And so she's had just extraordinary circumstances. And as far as my life goes, I mean, she's been one of the real stand-up people. But in those circumstances, you know, now she's at a stage where she's just starting to question the spiritual nature of her life. And I think it's okay to question. So where our conversation led to was understanding that we do go through those times, and how do we discover who that higher power is for us, and is it real? What do we do? And I took it to real small game stuff. I asked him to make himself revealed to me because I just wasn't understanding if he was real. Did I choose right, or was this my next worst decision? I think I've said that on the show. You know, of all the bad choices I make, was this another one? You know, did I even pick the wrong God? I mean, I could see myself doing that, honestly. With as many bad choices I make, I could see myself getting to the end of life and going, oh crap, I picked the wrong door. You know what I mean? So I don't trust myself. So I asked my God to show himself to me, and he did. He did, and in very valid, substantial ways that I couldn't have created for myself. And he understood how I think, and he gave me that peace. And so now I know he's real, and I know for sure what that's all about. And so I encouraged her that, you know, all I had to do for that moment is be authentic Chris. And if I came into her and just said, and we talked, the nature of that conversation, and to get to my point on that, was that we both felt that early on you put on a persona, because, you know, we don't want to be viewed as a drug addict or an alcoholic anymore, or, you know, a thug in the street or a dirtbag homeless guy. You know, I mean, these are all ways that community talks to us. I'm not saying that homeless people are dirtbags, but you understand where I'm going with it. Because I was one, and I didn't want to be called a dirtbag at all. And the people I was around this weekend, they don't want to be called dirtbags. But there's a certain element of our society that does think that way. At the same time, as a person, you don't want to be thought of that way. So, you know, we want to separate ourselves from all these things that were negatively viewed on us. And we do that by creating new clothes. I mean, Lecrae, a Christian rapper, called it putting on your church clothes. Well, we want to put on these church clothes, so to speak, to make it look like we really are rehabilitated. And usually we do that very rigorously within the first 2 years. We show everybody that we've just bursted out of the gates. Well, lo and behold, there's going to have to be a point where we realize we have to figure out, who are you? You know, who are you? Are you the person that was running and gunning? Or are you the person that's now, the patron saint of all things recovery? Or are you somewhere else? Are you something else? And I have not met one person in a recovery journey that hasn't got to that place where they're really just trying to reconcile every single thing that they were, every single thing that they want to be, and every single thing that they might be pretending to be. And are they pretending at all? And we all get to those stages. And so that's why authenticity is so important. It's not necessarily discovering yourself. It's just realizing that who you are and what you bring to the table today. Don't put on any airs of false persona. If you genuinely want to help somebody, help them, but don't do it for your own view. If you are feeling a certain way about sadness, mad, whatever, jealousy, self-loathing, whatever else it is out there, feel it. Use a fellow traveler to help you get through it because they may have had a similar story or at least some similar feelings. But if you look at the collective of all this, in terms of mindset, you're journaling, you're willing to accept your rigorous tenacity towards your goals, your unwavering approach to your goals, and your ability to be authentic you. One of the things I'll say, and if you actually looked at my LinkedIn profile, I believe I still have that on there. I give myself the gift of being the same Chris everywhere. So if you see me in a professional setting, I'm the same Chris. It's a little uncomfortable for some people because in that setting, you gotta be fake, I think, a lot of times, but I choose not to be. In my personal life, I'm the same person. So you're really just not going to get a different person, regardless of what I'm wearing or whatever setting I'm in. I'm pretty much the same 14-year-old man in a 52-year-old body. So that's the truth of it for me. And these are the things, what I want to do is share with you. These are areas where with stamina that I've found that work for me. And it really starts with mindset. Now, there are other elements. It's the action plans you make and the promises you keep and all these other things. But it starts with mindset. How do you keep your stamina with your mindset? And that mindset is not necessarily based on emotion. And this is super important. Emotions are going to be part of the journey. And there are going to be times when we feel really good, we feel really low, feel really mad, really sad, whatever, happy. We're going to have all these feelings, but your mindset has to be one that's giving you the discipline and the rigor about making sure that you stay on course. Your mindset is not an emotion in many ways. It has emotions, but your mindset is a determination. It's where your head is locked in. It's that goal-oriented, driving forward. No matter what, I will go forward. I will go at it. That's your mindset. It says I will go through anything to accomplish these measurable goals that I'm going to accomplish. So I'll be authentic with you. I have some goals in my life. I have some very serious goals in my life. From a professional perspective, I aspire to go another level higher than my current role, and that is to run a division of an organization versus a team within a division. That is my next aspirational goal within my career. Personally, from a fitness perspective, my desire is to maintain weight that is about 10 pounds lighter than where I'm at. For whatever reason, I have a lot of vacillating on my weight. I'm going to maintain a weight of 10 pounds lesser than I'm at. From a writing perspective, I want to be more productive in my writing and get my book out in a reasonable manner. From a show perspective, I want to make sure I continue to do this outreach and just reach one more and find ways to crack the code on more subscribers. But you know what? For now, I'm just going to keep doing this because it's part of my mission and a part of my purpose. I want to be willing and bold to make sure that every single person that comes across my path that needs hope and help, that I'm willing to at least plant that seed. From a family perspective, I want to make sure that my children are number one priority in this home and that their safety and security and their long-term hope and help and all those things that I'm providing for them in a way emotionally, physically, and substantially present so that they know and have security that home always was secure and that their life can go forward and be all the greatness that they were born to be. And then personally, very near and dear to my heart is I aspire to have my family reunited through this troubling time. I do have one, and her name is Sam, and she's tremendous to me. And this is not a gush session with you. What I want you to know is that as a man, as authentic Chris, these are the things that matter to me. Beyond this, the spiritual component that envelops all of that, I believe in one God, and I've seen evidence of him even this morning. I saw evidence of him 3 times yesterday, at least, that I can call on and say specifically that was something that was outside of my control that worked together for my good in a baffling way. I found out some information about some of the troubling situations that we're going through. And one very important thing that happened that we had no visibility to until recently that could have changed the entire trajectory of our opportunity in this whole situation. But because that happened, we now have an opportunity to correct this whole mess. God's present and he's present in my life. And so for me, my stamina and my mindset is all built around these goals I have, some aspirational, some of them tangible. And what I do know is that for today in this 24 hours, I need to move that way as if those things are most important for me, because they are. And it wasn't really an order of priority. It was just, generally speaking, that's who Chris is and who Chris cares to be. And those are the people that he's really aligned with. And I've got a lot of really dear friends, and I'll be loyal friends to them and everything else. So those are all things that kind of happen around it. But for this show, what I want to be as a fellow traveler with you, I want to always be in a situation where I'm humbled before you, so you recognize I don't see myself as above you. What I want to do is make sure that that my voice of what I see and what has helped me, or my hurts or my hangups or whatever else, that I can at least relate to you with an eye contact that says, look, man, I don't really have the answers here, but these are some things I'm seeing, and I hope it might be something to help you. And as you guys have comments and you guys send messages to me and tell me certain things, they're inspiring to me. And that has been happening over the last few weeks. I've had a lot more interaction between the multiple platforms that I'm on, with your feedback and your stories. And it's been powerful. I've had everything from eating disorders to obviously drug and alcohol addiction. Had, marriages that are in trouble, had marriages that have recovered. I've had people that have had motorcycle accidents. I mean, you name it. It's been this collective of people that have found victory and hope, and some that have just are kind of in the mess, and they need to know that there is going to possibly be a way. I assure you this show, Chris in Retro, the retrospective view at my life, and the retrospective view of other people's lives, we learn a few things. Our high risk living can fall apart. It's close. We can all fall apart, and it's way closer than we think it is every single time. It was within an hour that our lives fell apart here at this home because of high risk living. We would not have guessed the hour before that the hour after all heck would have broken loose, and it did. Also, hope, and I know this to be true, is closer than we think it is too. That's why progress is so important, and maintaining our stamina, the subject of this video, maintaining our stamina so that we have the energy to go through it. It's not a sprint sometimes, and I hate using cliches like that, but the fact is that we don't have to sprint. We don't have to be the strongest person in the room. We just have to make progress, and sometimes progress is a very small thing. The journal thing that I talked about with mindset today, here's my journal today. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's got a lot of writing on them these days. It's because I'm taking my journaling a lot more seriously and putting a lot more thought into it. It's not just an academic exercise for me. I'm really putting thought into it and writing it down so that my flight plan every single morning is solid. And at the end of the day, I can look back and say, really should have stuck to that a little bit stronger than I did. Guys, I really appreciate you listening. Stamina is a massively important part of our lives and recovery, or just generally speaking, when it comes to being a goal-achieving people. I'm thankful for all of you. I'm thankful for you allowing me to have this opportunity to speak on this platform. I'm hoping to get some more success out of this, so my voice can be heard a little bit bigger, and that my guest voice can be heard a little bit wider. Coming up probably within the next week and a half, we're going to have Stephanie Forrester on with Recovery Always. Stephanie was the one I was on North Clinton and Burbank with this weekend, and the overdose vigil. I want to get her on here. You're going to love her. She's a powerhouse. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Check out TikTok when you get a chance. Between now and the next time we talk, I'm going to do everything I possibly can do to stay out of trouble, and I hope you do too.